Welcome to Bluegrass Brooklyn, our podcast all about the music we love, straight from the Bluegrass borough of Brooklyn, New York.
Orange blossom or blue train, Casey Jones or Jesse James. Don't worry where you're bound. Life is always up and down. Folks on both sides of the track. Gone today, ain't coming back. Pullman coach or old boxcar.
Season 6, Episode 11. I'm your host, Liz Wolfe.
And I'm Mike Wilner.
And we're so excited to have today's guest, Darren Nicholson. He's got some great ideas about music that I can't wait to share.
Yep, it was a lot of fun.
So what else is going on, Mike?
Yeah, so we got big news. We have a new sponsor, Peghead Nation Online Courses. It's a online music school. It started off focusing on strings. It's now branching out to other areas like vocals. But when we say strings, it's like everything: ukulele, guitar, dobro, you name it. Everything from beginner moving forward to workshops and very targeted instructional videos about specific topics. I myself use Peghead Nation quite a bit. There's stuff on there that I was very surprised to find and get a lot of value from. Liz, I understand you're toying with the idea of diving into the online learning pool.
Yes, I am. I dug through all the guitar courses to see which ones I wanted to start with. Very excited about that. And my observation right away about it is these are really solid instructors. They have a lot of experience. And so I feel very reassured that if I do the work, when I do the work, that I will get some solid techniques that'll help to take me to the next level. So I'm very excited about it, actually. I've been wanting to do Peghead Nation for a while.
Yeah, you know, we are, as you know, pretty selective about our sponsorship engagements. We want to only engage partners whose products we like and believe in and can support and really honestly say, this is something I get a lot out of and I hope the listeners do too. And Peghead fits that bill. One of the very cool things about Peghead Nation, though, is it's great for ADD musicians like myself, meaning I start a course with one person and say, ooh, this is fun, but I'd like to try that course over there instead. Peghead allows you to switch around among instructors. So if you're going to bounce around, eventually find just the right course, you get the opportunity to do that. And there's a heavy discount for each additional course you add. So all of those features put together really recommended it to me. And as a thank you to our listeners, Peghead is offering a $25 discount or first month free on an annual subscription. You use the discount code BKLYN and apply that when you subscribe and you'll get your bonus. So we hope you take advantage of the opportunity to check out Peghead Nation. We're very glad and proud to have them on board as a sponsor. So, Liz, what else have you got going on?
Well, at the time of the airing of this episode, I will be preparing for my next festival, which is going to be Podunk, happening starting August 5th.
Yeah.
And can't wait to get up there. Really great musicians, jamming friends. It's going to be a total blast.
Yeah, I wish I had time to go, but I will be busily preparing for my visit to the Earl Scruggs Music Festival on September 4th through 6th. We will be down there podcasting, but I will be certainly haunting the jam circles and checking out all the great acts and soaking up the lovely, beautiful environment down there in Western North Carolina.
Well, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe our podcast. We can be found online at Bluegrass Brooklyn, BKLYN, bluegrassbrooklyn.com. And of course, on all our social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. So you can always reach out to Mike at bluegrassbrooklyn.com. If you want to find out about jams happening on the Upper West Side, North Riverdale, out in New Jersey, and increasingly around the world, you can go on to bluegrassjamsnearme.com. And you can reach me at liz@bluegrassjamsnearme.com.
So, Liz, anything else we want to cover?
No, let's get to this awesome interview.
Okay, let's roll. Okay, so here we are with Darren Nicholson, mandolinist, recording artist, performer, entertainer. First of all, thanks a lot for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
So, Darren, first of all, tell me a little bit about your music and your performing.
Yeah, I grew up in Western North Carolina. I come from generations of people who play old time music, mountain music, bluegrass. My grandmother played on my dad's side. My grandfather played on my mother's side. And so just about everybody in my family played or sang. And I grew up playing square dances and playing bluegrass and old time music. It's been a way of life as long as I can remember. So, and I got to travel around the world with this music, but home base has always been Western North Carolina, even though I worked out of Nashville, Tennessee for a long time.
Right. And a couple of things. First of all, I want the listeners to note that you do not come from North Carolina. You come from Western North Carolina.
That's right.
I learned when I got down there and had visited some friends at Crossroads Studios near Asheville and was at Just Want to Know a gathering at Warren Wilson College that I was not in North Carolina anymore. I was in Western North Carolina. So important distinction.
There's a big distinction, and it has to do, I think, with a lot to do with the music. There's a very specific type of bluegrass that comes out of Western North Carolina and East Tennessee, particularly, even the corner of Virginia right there. A lot of it has to do with the square dance culture and the clogging and the music of, the hundreds, the Scotch, Irish, the lineage. But North Carolina is such a long state.
Yeah.
And so there's the Piedmont region, which is like the textile tobacco area. And then there's the beautiful, the coastal plains, which is Cape Hatteras. And it's almost like 3 different states, really. So yeah, Western is very specific.
Yeah, I can recommend to our listeners, if you get a chance to get down to that region, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I think you and I share an opinion that making music is putting positivity out into the world. And it's just a net good thing to do.
Yes, for sure. I mean, and I've kind of had a rebirth of that passion and thought, especially during COVID, that kind of changed everything for me as far as my path with music and the way I'm thinking about music and pursuing music now and how I make my living with music. And so, yes.
All right. So I was really quite interested. I listened to quite a bit of your music and we're going to talk about a bit of it, but how did you make it from, say, figuratively, from the back porch into the recording studio? Because you've got an entire album, 10 songs here. That's quite an undertaking. From a studio.
Yeah. Well, it's been a journey. I feel like even though this is the culmination of my career as far as me writing the songs and arranging all the material, I feel like I'm kind of making full circle with where I am in my career now. It started out playing, in the living room, back porches, community events and dances. And then I got into the professional touring world. I started playing on the Grand Ole Opry and traveling all over the country and the world with national touring acts. And then I found myself in a place where I'm wanting to do more and more community music again, but on a bigger scale. I want to take what we do in Western North Carolina and share it with the rest of the country as far as the music and the dance. And I want to be an ambassador for Western North Carolina roots music and culture. And so in a way, even though I'm putting out these albums that are, you can stream them, you can hear them on radio, my career has kept developing in one area. The way I feel in my heart about the music and the community is kind of going back home a little bit.
Yeah, I love that term, community music. That's the best characterization I've heard of what we all love and play. So what I'd love to do, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to have a look at your recent release album, Lonesome Trails and Tall Tales, out early May, right?
May 1st. Yeah, it's my very first vinyl. So I'm super excited about that.
So now you're making me feel bad about like scrapping my turntable and everything 10 years ago and saying, this is all just junk.
Yeah. Should have held on to it. That just goes to show you anything like that, anything you're thinking about throwing it away, hold on to it for at least 50 or 60 years until it comes back around.
Okay, I'll take that advice. So there's 10 songs on this album, Darren. How many of them did you write or co-write?
I wrote or co-wrote, had a hand in every single one of them.
Wow. So it's all original.
It's all original music. There's only one song that was recorded before, and there's a song by Wes Buchanan that was recorded. It's a kind of an obscure, rare recording of Marty Robbins. It's called Windows Have Panes.
Yeah.
And it only had a verse and a chorus. It was one verse, one chorus. And so Mark Bumgarner and I felt like it wasn't finished. And so it wasn't finished for us. It was obviously finished when Marty Robbins was done with it, but we loved the song, but we did additional lyrics. We wrote another verse to it and rearranged it and recorded it. So it kind of has a little bit of our signature on it, but that's a Wes Buchanan song.
Since you mentioned it, why don't we start? Let's listen to a little bit of that, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
It's raining and my windows are crying. You're out there somewhere while I sit here dying. Mere reflections are all that remain. But even windows have pains. They cry when it rains. Keep hoping, my heart says keep hoping. But these tears say I'm hoping in vain. I don't think I can take it much longer. Even windows have pains.
I'll tell you, the first thing I thought when I heard that is somehow George Jones popped into my mind.
Yes. I love George Jones.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted. You know,
it was that sort of, just so lonely, taking solace in talking to inanimate objects and,
sad for sad's sake. Yes.
Yeah. So you guys wrote more of this song. And
yeah.
So was that the first or second verse you guys wrote?
We wrote the second verse.
Yeah. It started with the original. Yeah. So it was my turn to pick one. Okay. You wrote one called Get Me Down the Line. Let's listen to a little bit of that.
There's something about good whiskey shoots a fire down your spine. There's something about a dollar bill leads to a worried mind. There's something about an open road that gets me every time. Anything that runs these blues away and gets me down the line. There's something about a neon sign that makes me feel at home. Something about a Saturday night, can't stand to be alone. A pretty girl with hazel eyes, lips as sweet as wine. Anything that runs these blues away and gets me down the line.
There's a real ambling pace to this thing. I just feel you kind of leaning back in your chair and have the mando on your chest and very relaxed. Just kind of spinning out. What were you feeling when you wrote this thing?
I wanted to write like a juking kind of, it's almost like a swinging blues number.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Marty Stewart's style of bluegrass. Whenever he plays bluegrass, he played mandolin with Lester Flatt at a very young age, but it's got this it's almost acoustic rockabilly kind of feel, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that comes from Bill Monroe, basically. You know, Bill Monroe is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
All right, that's right.
And a lot of people forget about that. And he was writing songs like Bluegrass Twist and Bluegrass Stomp that had this early rockabilly feel to it, you know. And Bill Monroe was influenced by Arnold Schultz, this black blues musician.
Right.
And so a lot of that kind of swanky, kind of bluesy thing, it ended up in a lot of bluegrass that has kind of gone away over the years. But in early bluegrass, it was influencing people like Chuck Berry and the Beatles and Elvis Presley. And so that's you know, Jim and Jesse played a lot of that kind of stuff.
Right.
The Osborne Brothers. And I wanted to write a bluegrass song that kind of had that old kind of swing feel to it. Because you don't hear it much anymore. You know, it's fun to dance to. It's a fun party song, you know?
Okay, it's your turn to pick one, though.
Oh, gosh. Let's see. Probably Any Highway.
All right. Let's listen to that.
Any highway headed out of town, any back road where you ain't around. You left me lonesome and I'm leaving now. Any highway headed out of town. Sundress blowing in the summer breeze. You're out there dancing wild and free. I wish now you'd never looked at me. You're not the kind that I could ever keep. Any highway headed out of town, any back road where you ain't around. You left me lonesome and I'm leaving now. Any highway headed out of town.
Let me give you some impressions. First of all, I love that the musicianship is really solid, really very impactful, but I feel like the focus is on the song and not the virtuosity of individual musicians, which is very cool. First thing I said to myself is this a Grateful Dead song? Because you got those harmonies. Is there a Grateful Dead influence on this?
Man, that's a great compliment. No, but I do like a lot of that music. And that's a very good example of a band who, you know, musically, there were no virtuosos in the band, but they had good material. And it's about the song and the singing. And, you know, somewhere along the line, especially in bluegrass, it's become about the hot picking and like the virtuosity. And the only problem with that is you can get to be a famous artist that way, but nobody remembers a virtuoso musical hit. All the hits in any genre of music are simple songs. Country Roads, Rocky Top, Blue Moon of Kentucky. I've always heard that if you can't whistle it or pat your foot to it or sing along to it, that it's not going to be a hit. Right. And so, you know, a lot of these virtuoso pickers, people become fans of them, but I can't really remember. I don't know any of their songs, you know, and so the songs will always be bigger than the artist. And so I love simple music. That's a dying art because it's actually harder to play simple music than it is to play a bunch of space filler and to do it right. And so that's the music that I like and I'm drawn to. And so I love a good hook and a good song that people can play around the campfire and sing along to. I appreciate virtuosos. Right. I wish I could do it, but at the same time, I like good down home music.
You know, it's funny. I was just reflecting the other day, you know, we have all these incredible young musicians going through the conservatory education system and coming out as incredibly skilled. And I was thinking of one particular player, and I was saying, okay, so you're a virtuoso, guitar player. You and 20,000 other people. What do you
Yeah,
got? You know,
exactly.
it was amazing when you were 12 years old, but you're not 12 years old anymore. Now you're 20
Yeah.
years old. You have to have something to say.
Yeah. You got to have something to say.
You know the old
And you
joke,
got,
right? There's a talking dog and everyone's amazed, but after a while, you got to say, does the dog have anything interesting to say?
exactly. And that's why people like, Bob Dylan, Gordon Lightfoot, who, some people love their singing, but, the general public, they're not amazing, blow you away singers, but they're iconic. We love their songs because the songs are so much, they're powerful. And so, you know, that's it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
And it's not right or wrong. It's just apples and oranges.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, I'm going to pick one now.
All right.
It's tough for me because there's a couple I want to think about. But since we're on this track, let's listen to I've Got No Tears Left to Cry. So hang on.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I've got no tears left to cry. There's no room for you by my side. I don't want a thing to remember you by. I've got no tears left to cry. I forgot how bad it could get the moment I let you back in. You come back around just to let me back down. Now I curse the day that we met. I've got no tears left to cry. There's no room for you by my side. I don't want a thing to remember you by. I've got no tears left to cry.
You're telling me you guys wrote this song? Because I started this and I said, oh, finally a Stanley Brothers song. I guess he's covering the Stanley Brothers here. It sounded so authentic to that feeling. I heard the minor chord in there, so I'm like, well, they don't usually use. And then I realized, no, this is original, really, but very true to the feel. So tell me a little bit about writing this one.
Well, that's the way to have a successful bluegrass song is write something that's fresh and new, but sounds like everything else,
Right. Yeah.
That's a dying style of bluegrass that kind of went away for a while, which is the power waltz, like the three-time songs that the Stanley Brothers did, Jimmy Martin were known for, with the powerful harmonies and the three-quarter time music. And I love those. I grew up listening to those. And so we wanted to write one, but how do you do one that's a simple hook, a simple melody that everybody can sing, that's very basic chords, but that doesn't sound like every other song? Our twist was that we did a modulation, which is a key change for the instrumental breaks.
Right.
And so when you play the instrumental breaks, it goes to this different place musically and bends the ear, because let's be honest, a lot of bluegrass can get boring or sound the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people have gotten away from simple music, because they think that's boring. And that's not true. You can take two chords and play songs and arrange two chords to where there's not another song that sounds like that. But it requires a lot of thinking and a lot of creativity, which I think people now, and I'm guilty of it too. A lot of times we want to take the lazy way out. And so the key is to write simple music that's catchy, but that's also different. Because you hear the joke that once you've heard one bluegrass song, you've heard them both, and what that means is a lot of bluegrass music sounds alike and as the same. I play it and I love bluegrass music, and I still find that to be true. And so, for a person who's being introduced to bluegrass for the first time, unless you're a major fan, a lot of it does start sounding the same. So how do you arrange songs and put set lists together and albums together to hold the listener's attention?
Yeah.
And so not only do we do that within our set list, but we do that within our album. Every song on this is a different key, a different tempo, a different
Yeah.
mood, different vibe. But there's also a lot of modulations, which bluegrass does not utilize as much as it should.
Right.
And so, that's there's a lot of ways to be creative and still be simple and simplistic. Well, even as someone who loves the music, like I like ice cream, but after the third gallon, I can't eat any more ice cream.
Gotcha.
And so I think a lot of times musicians forget they love the music so much that they play for themselves, and they forget that there's an audience out there, and not everybody loves the music, especially like going back to the virtuoso stuff. Not everybody loves that as much as they do.
Right.
And I got to remember the things that I like may be boring to the audience. And so I got to keep switching it up.
Right.
And that's how I write songs and arrange songs.
So it's your turn to pick one. Why don't you grab another song and we can talk about that one?
Gosh, I would say Eager Overachiever.
Damn it. That's what I was going to choose. But okay, let's give Eager Overachiever a listen.
You know, Sun Behavioral of Delaware says 3 drinks per week is what you should have to be considered a normal drinker. I used to have 3 drinks before I started drinking. I guess I've always been sort of an overachiever. And a serving size of M&Ms is actually 12 M&Ms. I used to eat 3 bags of M&Ms. I guess I've always been an overachiever. I remember the first time I ever kissed a girl, it just made me want to kiss all the rest of the girls. I'm not saying I have a problem with women, but one time my friend Richard dressed up in a wig for Halloween and he had to pepper spray me twice before the night was over. So this song goes out to all the people like me, all the alcoholics, all the carbohydrate addicts, the gamblers, all the people who can't seem to just get enough of whatever it is. I walk into the brewery for a drink and not one more. Then before you know, a single round's turned into 4. Then 4 turns into 6, and 6 turns into 9. Why does this madness happen to me every single time?
Okay, let's talk about this.
Oh, let's talk to our therapist about this.
Obviously. I'll say this. The opening segment is like a really old style, like that kind of conversational, semi-rhythmic thing going on with the band grooving in the background and the lead just talking. I love it. I love it.
I'm glad that you get it. Yeah, people understand what it is.
So what if it's not too personal? Do you have like a gallon of M&Ms and 3 gallons of ice cream?
Yeah, for sure. I'm in recovery. I'm an alcoholic, but I'm 5.5 years sober.
Congratulations.
And so, yeah, it's the greatest thing, getting into recovery is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It saved my life. But when I stopped drinking, I found myself at the fridge every night. I was just pounding ice cream, and so, and then I'm like, man, I'm just switching one thing up for another. And then so going down this journey, you realize you're just kind of playing whack-a-mole with all these things. You get one thing knocked down and another thing pops up. And so when Andrew Blythe had the idea for the song Eager Overachiever, he goes, what does that mean to you? And I started riffing on all these funny things, like a tongue-in-cheek kind of, funny way to look at addiction. And addiction or compulsive behavior in general, I mean, you can do healthy things compulsively. I know people who go to the gym too much, it's almost like obsessive kind of stuff where it almost just takes over their life. So the song is basically a way to address balance and how, most humans, it may not be alcohol, or it may not be ice cream, but there's something that we get out of balance with sometimes. Yeah. And so I think that's most humans. And this is just kind of a funny way to talk about that. It's not so dark or serious, but I did want to do the old style.
Yeah.
Something that you would hear like a Jerry Reed or a Roger Miller do.
Right.
if you follow country music or our kind of music. And I thought of Homer and Jethro too. This is like a very swing kind of tune.
Yes.
I always loved Jethro Burns' mandolin playing,
Mhm.
and folks like Buck White and even Ricky Skaggs in the 70s when he would play all that smart alecky kind of mandolin,
Mhm.
that we all loved. And I wanted to have like a fun swinging that, and that's just how the thing came together. And everybody who's heard the song seems to enjoy it, and it's been fun to do live. 3 modulations, by the way, in that one. 3 key
Okay.
changes.
Yeah. Well, that's because you need more modulations, right? Like a friend of mine says, yeah, what I'm addicted to is more. He says, whatever it is, I don't care what it is, but just more of it.
That is perfect. My friend Mark Pruitt, who I played with for years in Boston Range, great banjo player, but also a genius. He's a genius guy. And we would have these intellectual conversations. And he said, you know what the definition of enough is?
Yeah.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, you put a smile on it, but I think it's important that you're able to put that on the album and really give people something to think about in that. All right, I got one more I'd like to do. I like to do them all, but we're going to save some for the listeners to discover for themselves. But here, let's give it a listen to Big Sky.
Big sky caught my eye until the day I died. John Coulter was a mountain man, born and raised a mountain man. Traveled west and back again. John was a mountain man. Potts and Coulter set their traps. Out in Montana they set their traps. The Blackfoot, well, they didn't like that. Potts and Coulter set their traps. Big sky caught my eye. Dreams open wide across the great divide. You'll find me out on the other side until the day I die. The geysers boiling, Coulter's hell. Orange and green and
I love the way it starts off with this slow, mournful, just really setting a mood rather than anything else. And the fiddle is back there wailing away. And it's a good old-fashioned story song, right? We've talked about a lot of lost arts here. I think nowadays, some of the songs I've heard recently, it's just not that interesting. The stories aren't that interesting. And the music is okay, but I love this story, and I love the way it evolves, the way it rolls out from this very slow kind of introspective start. Tell me what you think about this one.
The gentleman, John Coulter, is interesting. I mean, there could be a dozen movies made about different parts of his life. And for people who aren't familiar with John Coulter, he was part of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and probably the first white European to discover Yellowstone. And he was a scout, and he went out and he found all this geothermal activity, the geysers. And he went back and he told the Lewis and Clark expedition, he said, the earth is bubbling orange and green. And they didn't believe him. And it really had a detrimental effect on him. But then he was also captured and tortured by Native Americans and then hunted down and escaped and got back to Fort Smith. So there's been several books written about him. One's called Coulter's Run. The other's called Coulter's Hell. And I think the movie The Revenant was loosely based on him. So we play out west every year in Montana and Wyoming, and we go out there and travel, and we've made good friends out there. And my buddy Mike Green was telling me all these stories when we're out in Yellowstone. And I got back and we started writing this song. And one of the things I love about it is it rolls out like an old time song, like old time music, where you start with a line, but they also repeat. They go back and end with a line, like an old time mountain ballad. And I thought the song was interesting, but I thought it was okay. I didn't think other people would be interested in it. And I was listening through work tapes on the way to a show, and our bass player, Kevin Sluter, was riding with me. And he heard that song and he said, "Man, you've got to record that." He said, "That's a hit song." He said, "That is so fascinating." And I love that it's in a minor key. It's got all this, it's moody.
Yeah.
And he said, I think you can do so much with that. And so we ended up recording it. And I'm so thankful because it was the #1 song 4 different times in bluegrass music and has become one of our most requested songs. And what a gift. And it's one
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have, thought about much, but the cut turned out great. And it's fun to do live.
Yeah. It's got that mountain blues feel. It's got that mountain ballad. And it spins
Yeah.
out at a very unhurried way, which I love.
Long and lonesome. It's Lonesome Trails and Tall Tales. That song is all of that.
Yeah, you've got both.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to leave the rest of the music for our listeners to discover. But let's talk a little bit about what you have going on. Are you touring? Are you got more recording in mind? What's happening with you?
Yeah, we're touring. We're supporting this new release. We've got a bunch of shows coming up for the summer. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, during the pandemic, I started doing house concerts because all of the big shows went away and people were in these homes and they were experiencing bluegrass music up close. And people were having these emotional experiences. People who had seen me with Balsam Range on big stages. And they said, we've heard you over sound system and we've heard you, sitting out in a seat, but we've never experienced the music like this, where we're feeling the energy and come out of the instruments and feeling it so present. And that's something that only acoustic music can do. And I just got to thinking about that's especially being in the mountains from Western North Carolina, that's how bluegrass started. And that's how that music was created and kind of intended, for this intimate experience. And so I just got to thinking about, what am I trying to do with my music? Because these people were impacted by it. And I started focusing more on what I call facilitation music or community music. And what that means is I still do records and we still go out and play shows, but we're not on the same path as like a commercial bluegrass band.
Right.
And I don't really care about being a big star, or of course, I mean, there's only really 1 or 2 stars in bluegrass anyway, but our music is taking more of that. What can we do to serve you? And like a lot of our things that we do are with municipalities and communities. And we've started bringing a square dance caller on the road and playing square dances,
Very cool.
getting people up dancing, getting people involved, talking about the culture of the music, how bluegrass in Western North Carolina started. And because, Bill Monroe takes credit and should for bluegrass and it being from Kentucky, but, Earl Scruggs was from Shelby, North Carolina, and it wasn't bluegrass until Earl Scruggs was in the picture.
Right.
And so, North Carolina and Tennessee, they've got a flag in the ground too on that hill. And all that music, what is now bluegrass, comes out of these mountains and playing in homes and playing for dances and people creating their own entertainment. And we want to represent that and let people see a different side of what bluegrass music is.
That's very cool. So one last question before I let you go. Somewhere out there, there's like a 10 or 11-year-old Darren or Darlene who's thinking about getting into songwriting.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for him or her?
I would say love yourself and just follow it. Follow that string and see where it takes you, and write about yourself and your experiences, and, put your feelings on paper and share those feelings with other people and the world. Don't carry all that around inside. Songwriting is a great way to get that out. But the only thing I'm qualified to write about is myself. And I don't use music to tell other people how to live or what to do. I think that's a mistake. There's a great saying that says, preach often, and when you have to, use words.
Very
and
lucky.
when you can speak in I statements, and when you can say, my experience was, or when this happened, I did this, that's always more effective than you should do this, or you need to be doing this. And I think that's part of what's affecting our community, the music community, our political community, is people are trying to tell each other how to feel, how to think, how to be. And when we can kind of focus on ourselves, we can show the world our sermon as opposed to telling them the sermon. I think that's more powerful. The only thing I'm qualified to change or write about is myself. And when I do that, then I can change the world.
Right.
But it starts here. It's the inside job.
Absolutely. Sage advice. I'll take it myself. And hey, Darren, it's been a pleasure to meet you. I really appreciate you going on this musical journey. It's a lot of fun. And
Hey, you, bro. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad that you dove into the album and enjoyed it.
all right, maybe we'll run into each other at IBMA or some other similar event. And until then, I look forward to listening to more of the album and more of your music.
I would love to bring the band back to Gray Fox and do a square dance sometime. That would be fun. All right. Have a good one.
Live each day like it's the last. All trains come to pass. All trains come to pass.
Well, I really enjoyed listening to Darren. I have to say for myself, the highlights were his discourse about what makes a good song.
Yeah.
And what makes really a hit, because it was Pete Seeger that said anybody can write a complicated song, but can you write a simple song? If it's not a jammable song, which is where I do 95% of my playing, then I feel I'm missing out. Write songs that people can play so that when they say, whose song is that? You say Darren Nicholson's.
Yeah. His whole point about the virtuosic showcases that some songs become being great to listen to, but how many times are you going to really listen to that? Yeah, I also really like playing musical tag with Darren and just trading off picking songs. That was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great praise for it.
Yeah. So please remember to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn. You can visit bluegrassbrooklyn.com. You can drop a line to me, Mike at bluegrassbrooklyn.com, or Liz at bluegrassjamsnearme.com. And if you want to check out jams in Uptown Manhattan, Bronx, Riverdale, New Jersey, and increasingly around the world, bluegrassjamsnearme.com. Okay, Liz, anything else we want to touch on?
Oh, thanks so much for listening.
And we look forward to seeing you around the Jam Circle. We'd like to thank our sponsors. We learn and grow with Peghead Nation's online courses and world-class instructors. We're powered by Ear Trumpet Labs microphones. That's why we sound so good.